Good morning. I'm Michael Amy Sierra. I'm a member here and honored to be one of the advisors for the senior high class in the religious education program. We are delighted to be offering for the 6th year what's now become a special tradition for this last service of the year, an opportunity for our recent high school grads to return to share how their experiences here may be shaping or influencing their lives. And what with holiday travels, while they couldn't all be here in person, this year we'll be utilizing technology to share a video recorded reflection. One of the, if not the very first services I attended here at the UUCC was the senior high bridging ceremony. As I was actively searching at the time for a spiritual community for my toddler daughter and myself, a place for her to grow spiritually, to be seen, supported, and loved, serendipitously, it was the perfect service for me to attend. The youth that spoke that morning were thoughtful and insightful and eloquent. Yes, I thought, this community is what I want for her. I was truly impressed and stayed. Well, it took me a while to actually attend regularly. The aforementioned toddler hated being left in the nursery. As well as in spirit play, shout out to our beloved Melissa Schroep, who facilitated several of my stealthy escapes to the sanctuary. That toddler, now a leggy teen who works in the nursery. But eventually, we returned again and returned again. As you rise to sing our first song, we invite you to reach out and greet one another. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm an environmental management and policy major, and on all of the tests for one of my classes this year, I'm about to do the chalice thing. I was required to write Francisco's hypothesis at the beginning of every test, which is, we cannot care and nurture the environment if we do not care and nurture each other, which is important because our community consists of the people we surround ourselves with, as well as the environment we surround ourselves with.
Good morning. As I was sitting in my dorm bed one evening with friends I had met just weeks ago sitting across from me, an interesting topic of conversation came up. While neither of them were particularly religious, we began discussing our personal belief systems and spirituality. The obvious similarities between the three of us became apparent almost immediately. We talked about sending prayers to the universe rather than to an all-knowing entity, and the difference between spirituality and religion for all three of us. As we were sitting and talking, I found it interesting that the three of us, one with no formal religious experience, one whose mother is a pastor, and me raised here, have reached incredibly similar conclusions about the world that we live in. I found myself explaining the concept of Unitarian Universalism for maybe the 100th time this year, and we began looking for a UU church in our area. Although I haven't been yet, mostly due to the lack of a car, I look forward to attending and broadening my UU community. Other UU values have had a strong impact on my life now that I have finished my time in the CYRE program and have started studying engineering at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado. I have joined a club focused on social responsibility in engineering and am leading a committee to plan the annual symposium for the Humanitarian Engineering Department. This spring, the symposium will focus on environmental justice, a theme idea I had after learning about it here during my high school CYRE classes. The seventh principle, respect for the interconnected web of all existence of which we are a part, has always been meaningful to me, but is more so even now. Not only has it been in my mind for my environmental justice work, but also in my awe and appreciation for the beauty of nature in my new state. I have discovered that at the end of a pre-sunrise hike, sitting on top of a mountain looking at the stars is when I feel most connected to the people and the world around me. Another value I have held in my mind over the past 4 months of school is simply open-mindedness and the goal of open and respectful communication. I spend most of my time around a wide variety of people with a wide variety of backgrounds. I have had many discussions with people who have very different opinions than myself, and my goal is always to understand their perspective rather than to simply fight the one facet of their opinion that I don't agree with. I have discovered that often learning about where someone comes from gives a good perspective on their beliefs. And as I continue my college career and beyond, I will use the skills and values I have learned through Unitarian Universalism to build relationships and to build myself. I will always lean on this community as my spiritual home and look forward to broadening my UU community as well. Thank you.
Good morning again. I'm Thomas. I'm a sophomore at UNC Asheville. Last year, I was out on the quad. I was tossing a frisbee with a friend, and there was a group of students by us. They were having a little cookout, a typical college scene. But anyways, one of them came up to me, a pretty typical hippie Asheville-looking girl, and she goes, do I know you from somewhere? I don't think so. Could you be from Raleigh? No, I'm from Charlotte. Could you be a UU? Yes. To which my other friend responded, what? Where to begin? We started talking about the various retreats, and turns out we've been on quite a lot together, both here and at the mountain, where the high schoolers have cons. I didn't really think about it at the time, but the community here really is something special. Most of my friends and the people I associate myself with today are from various groups or communities, and I have learned that the best way to make friends and get various opportunities is to put myself out there, sometimes into uncomfortable situations. It's not easy. It's really difficult to find yourself in part of a community with people that you like, and there is definitely a point in your life where you need to find community. When I was a sophomore in high school, 4 years ago, I had a lot of trouble talking with people and making friends because people are scary. I had been doing childcare at this church for about a year at this point, but I didn't really know anybody that went to the church. However, that year, I ended up doing the church's coming of age program. My dad made me go. The first thing that I did through the program was a weekend at the mountains, which was my worst nightmare. I wasn't good at talking with people, and now I was going to be spending a whole weekend out there with a bunch of people I never met before. I was shocked by how easily I could communicate with them and how inviting they were. I'm still friends with them, and it is great to come and back to Charlotte and see them over the breaks. I actually hung out with quite a bit of them the other night. In that same year, I went to my first mountain con and helped plan and attended my first Charlotte con. I met a lot of Unitarians around the area, and I still talk to a good amount of them as well. I went from not really talking to anybody and not really doing anything to meeting a ton of cool, interesting, and smart people and helping plan and attending a lot of cool situations and cons. Over the next couple of years, between ages 16 to 18, I grew a lot socially. I have attended many cons, helped plan cons. I continued to do the child care. I did Habitat for Humanity, and have spoken and planned a few services. I learned through my experience here that I need to put myself into more social situations in order to become a part of other communities. And when I say I put myself into these situations, I have my friends and the community here and elsewhere backing me, so it doesn't really feel like it's just me. It is awesome to be able to leave Charlotte and go into new weird situations and new unexpected opportunities and meet people from the same community who have familiar stories and know familiar faces from Charlotte. It's awesome to meet new people, but it's great to know that the communities and people that I've known in the past are helping me along the way. Thank you.
Good morning. Some of you may already know me. My name is Sam. I use they, them pronouns for anyone wondering. I'm going to be talking to all of you about how my experiences here have affected my life and how I view things in college. Just to get some background knowledge on where I am now that I've graduated from high school, I am currently attending college at UNC Asheville. I just finished my first semester and I'm currently on winter break. I plan on getting my bachelor's in psychology, then transferring and getting a master's in social work somewhere else. I would like to become a therapist, most likely dealing with mental health issues, but that could change. So far, what I have experienced in college has been very positive. People coming together to increase their knowledge in certain fields, to hopefully get a much better job in something they enjoy. And it's not just recent high school graduates coming to college to do this. I have seen many people all the way into their 40s attending college. For example, one day I was in the student center studying when I heard a man in his 40s cursing at the top of his lungs. Apparently, he decided that taking 3 chemistry classes in one semester was a good idea. It is very much not a good idea. Don't do that. One of the main things I've learned here that has transferred over into my life up in Asheville is love, compassion, and acceptance. While it wasn't just this church that taught me that, I could definitely say that you have all strayed from that. And when I talk about acceptance, I don't just mean accepting that people have different opinions than me. I mean actively discussing my beliefs with someone who may not agree with them without just telling them that they're wrong and I'm right. Seeing things from their perspective and discussing it with them, which is something I've learned that not many people know how to do. I think it's a very important skill to have. One of the values I learned here, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, I see very often. You may or may not know this, but at UNC Asheville, about 3/4 of the student population is LGBT. That's probably not completely accurate, but there's a lot. And unfortunately, a lot of them didn't have the most accepting families or friends in their hometowns, so they come to Asheville seeking acceptance. And I'm there to help them see that they are loved and valued. I have been taught so many things here, and anything I haven't been taught here has still been strengthened by our values. I'm thankful for being able to grow up and attend such an amazing church. Thank you.
Good morning again, and welcome. We're happy you're with us today in this room or joining us remotely. We're pleased to have guests with us. Our members would like to greet you personally following the service. So if you are visiting, please raise your hand and keep it up. Members, take note of guests seated near you, and after the service, invite them to join you for coffee and conversation in Freeman Hall. Should it enhance your experience of future services, we offer large print orders of service, personal assistance hearing devices, and we have an elevator available as well. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card and place it in an offering basket later in the service. Members with a life event to share can do so on the reverse side of the card. The cards and offering envelopes are on the clipboards at the end of the row. Please begin passing them now. Visitors interested in hearing about how to become a member can talk with our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. Her contact information is on the back of your order. Again, to each of you, welcome. So when Kathleen Carpenter, our Director of Children and Youth Religious Education, first invited me to teach in the program, I was homeschooling my daughter at the time, and I felt like we spent enough time together, and so I thought I might really enjoy teaching the middle schoolers, because I dig middle schoolers. But as it turned out, Kathleen had a greater need that year in the elementary age program, so I agreed. And then the next year, my daughter really wanted me to please stay teaching in her class, and I was wise enough to realize her wanting to be close to me probably wasn't going to last, so I continued. And then, 3 years ago, when it was time for her to move up to middle school, she shares, as I had suspected, that she no longer wanted me to be a teacher in her class. So I went to Kathleen and shared my dilemma, and Kathleen suggested, well, why not be a senior high advisor? I need a senior high advisor. So I agreed. And what a gift. I love these kids. I love their minds and their humor. I love their clothes and their kindness and their irreverence. And while we all thought at the time that our generation most certainly had it the hardest, I truly believe that we can't even begin to imagine what it is like, all the challenges that these young folks are managing. From the macro of the average US high school student with long school days, excessive homework, and tests, and no free or outdoor time, social media, and school shootings. In the micro and the personal, from those dealing with health issues, mental and physical disability, to coming out as LGBTQIA, dealing with divorce and death, they come every week and they share authentically into our safe and brave space anything in their lives, from lock-ins and lockdowns to breakups and breakdowns, issues around race and politics and sex and gender identity. The superheroes of the Marvel universe can't hold a candle to the courage of these kids. They celebrate together college acceptances and sports and band competitions, and they hold space for losses and lousy grades, and they listen, mostly. I have learned so much from them, how to look at this broken society with hope. In a year that has been really wrought with such struggle and challenging changes for me personally, to remember to find the beauty on a moonlit night, or singing a silly song with a friend, or in a mindless meme, and to witness them step as they fledge and step out at the beginning of their journeys as adults, to follow them on Instagram in their gap year travels to Europe, as budding journalists and writers and musicians and social workers and engineers, to behold their beautiful transitions or wrecking their first car. It is a privilege. Thank you. I'm now going to invite Barry Aaron up to share with us about Focus 2020.
Good morning. I'm Barry Aaron, and I chair the Focus 2020 task group that's reconsidering our congregation's name and leading all of you in that effort. We recently asked members to submit suggestions for names and received more than 250 of them. And we only need one name. The task group studied them all, and earlier this month we launched an online straw poll using 20 names that we carefully selected from the full list. The poll asks for your top 5 choices in ranked order from those 20. There's also a write-in option if you want to designate one of your 5 favorites from that full list. A second question on the poll asks for a preference among various institutional designations such as church, congregation, community, etc. We had a good response so far, but time is running out. Our deadline is September 31st, the witching hour of midnight on New Year's Eve, to respond to the poll. We hope that you will take a little time and do that. This is a critical effort, a critical part of this whole name reconsideration process. You can access the online poll through a link in the original email that came in on December 18th if you're looking for it, but we also sent out a reminder email that has a link to the poll, and that went out on Friday. The task group will publish the results of the straw poll and use them to help us determine the next step in the name reconsideration process. If you have questions about the online poll, you can email us. The email address is fairly easy to remember. It's focus2020@uuccharlotte.org, or if you're having problems that you can't resolve online, just call the church office when it reopens tomorrow. Thank you very much.
We call your attention to the announcements in the back of the order of service. All are invited to our New Year's Day annual hike at Crowder's Mountain. We'll meet at the UUCC here parking lot on Wednesday morning at 11:30. More information is available for these and additional events in your order of service and on our Currents webpage, accessed through the UUCC website. In a congregation our size, we have many joys and concerns. We hold in our hearts and prayers members who are facing long-term health challenges and those who serve as caregivers. Everyone is invited to light a candle during the offering to mark a celebration, concern, or remembrance.
I'd like to invite everyone to a moment of meditation and aspiration. You may close your eyes if you like. Reflect. It's pretty rare that we have the opportunity to think about things without actually having to do things. I invite you back to come to the service.
A religious community is like a river formed from the many streams of our lives that meet and merge and flow to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we share our time and energy, our creativity and imagination, and vision, our talents, skills, and gifts, and the streams of our individual lives to create a river that is both deep and broad. A river that is made of many streams, sustains life, and refreshes the land through which it flows. But the river of this community also depends on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. Please rise in body and or spirit to read together an affirmation of our faith. I will read the non-italicized passages and ask that you read the italicized passages. In a house which becomes a home, one hands down and another takes up the heritage of mind and heart, laughter and tears, musings and deeds.
Love, like a carefully loaded ship, crosses the gulf between the generations.
Therefore, we do not neglect the ceremonies of our passage, when we wed, when we die, and when we are blessed with a child.
When we depart and when we return, when we plant and when we harvest.
Let us bring up our children. It is not the place of some official to hand to them their heritage.
If others impart to our children our knowledge and ideals, they will lose all of us as worthless and full of wonder.
Let us build memories in our children, lest they drag out joyless lives, lest they allow treasures to be lost, because they have not been given the keys.
We live not by things, but by the means of things. It is needful to transmit the passwords from generation to generation.
As the year comes to a close, we invite you to reflect on how your own experiences here may be shaping or influencing your life. Or if you're seeking a spiritual community for yourself or your family, where you can feel both comfortable and challenged, you may find, yes, this is the place. From Dorothy Day, we have all known the long loneliness, and we have learned that the only solution is love. And that love comes with community. Please be seated for the closing music. Thank you.